Okay. So today I'm talking with my cousin Greg. Hey, Greg.
Hey Jenny, what's going on?
How's it going?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on the pod.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for joining. This is actually our first time having a one on one conversation, so I appreciate it. And obviously, we're trying something new. We started chatting about the Telepathy Tapes podcast. And so, based on that, why not delve into that a little bit more? So, I just want to start off by, explaining what telepathy actually is. It's the ability to transmit thoughts or feelings from one mind to another without using your traditional five senses. Okay. So, like, with
hmm
that in mind, Greg, what made you want to actually check out the telepathy tapes when I mentioned it to you?
So my first exposure to telepathy, really more than just a passing mention from somebody, was a different podcast. I actually heard the documentary, and I forget her name now, but I heard the creator of the documentary Telepathy Tapes on the Joe Rogan Experience.
Oh,
And that got my attention because it was like it was a long form interview, and she talked about all the different things that I really didn't believe in, but she seemed to have some incredible evidence. So,
that's really
I,
interesting. And
yeah,
obviously the Joe Rogan podcast that has some clout to it. So it's almost like, well, if he's bringing her on, maybe that has some significance.
right. And he's known for having a lot of fringe idea people on, but
Yeah.
with her, she seemed to have, credible documentation. So, yeah, when you mentioned the telepathy tapes to me was a separate string of podcasts itself, I jumped right in. I didn't hesitate.
I love that. Yeah. And
Yeah.
obviously, I mean, I have not finished and I don't know if you've gotten further along. I'm on the eighth episode now. Where are you at in your journey?
I'm at the same spot actually, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so obviously there's still some to go, but I mean, eight episodes in, was there anything that like stuck out to you or made you kind of think a little differently about how people in general communicate with one another?
For me, the biggest and coolest part of the telepathy tapes was the idea of the hill
Yeah.
being sort of like a community of thoughts and people interacting with each other all at once. And it almost seemed like a giant thought college, the way some
Mm,
people talk about it. I remember there were a few folks who seemed to enjoy studying certain topics from other people who could access the hill from different countries. Like I
yeah.
know there was a kid named Houston who liked learning about bees or something like that from someone in Sweden or something like that.
Isn't that
That was
amazing?
pretty cool. Yeah.
And obviously all of them, all of us as well, but are exposed to extremely different lives and information, and so to come together in that way, that's pretty astounding.
No, yeah, it seems so beyond what we can do right now. And granted that we grew up with our physical senses being our
Yeah.
primary form of communication. It's beyond the comparison of like learning a new language.
So does it feel fictitious at all, or do you believe what you were hearing? And also, just to give some additional context, the if for people who haven't obviously listened to the telepathy tapes, it's based off of autistic individuals who do not have the ability to speak. So that's
Right, right.
ultimately why they like are using telepathy. Yeah,
Yeah. Uh, th- does it seem fictitious to me? Yes. Do I also believe that it's possible? Yes.
yeah.
I mean, we've heard about people who lack certain senses being able to do extraordinary things with others. Like I know there's people who are born blind end up learning how to echolocate sometimes with a
Mm,
walking stick, and they like making clicking noises with their mouth. So, and that's just with the loss of one sense. I can't imagine where most of your other senses are dulled, what you could possibly do with your mind. and
yeah.
and that's why I was skeptical going in, but like still fascinated by the idea of telepathy.
It's actually a really great point. And, sometimes I have those moments, like they're a little bit of humbling moments where you're like, okay, I shut the lights off. I can't see where I'm going. And now you have to, use your other senses, elevate those senses to help you in those situations. Now imagine what it's like to be that way consistently, daily. And then what does that mean? How do you have to use other powers, I guess, to get you beyond, to just get you through life?
Right. And humans are so adaptable that I tend to give people the benefit of the doubt in that regard, that
Yeah.
you can overcome that kind of challenge no matter how great.
That's also a great point. Obviously, there's a mental component to it. I mean, you have to want to get past those, blips in life, but you can definitely do that.
Yeah.
I know you talked about like having somewhat of a connection with your friend. You shared this with me in a prior conversation, but like, have you ever had moments where you just, knew what someone was going to say before they said it, or you felt something that you like couldn't explain and then maybe it happened? Have you ever had anything like that happen to you?
There are two notable instances where I something significant happened and I couldn't explain why. Should I make a long story short? Do you want me to go through both of them one at a time?
I mean, you could just do a general and then if we need to go into more depth, that's fine.
Right. Okay. Yeah. If you want to ask questions, you stop me. Um, I remember when my mom was real sick in the hospital, and I was going to visit her one afternoon, and she was going to be staying there for a few days. My sister was already there, and I made my way up to the floor, went past the nurse's station, went into her room, and I was talking to her and my sister from the foot of the hospital bed. And I remember just like for no reason at all, just looking around, and I looked out the door of the room, and I saw this guy, at the end of the hallway, maybe like 40 yards away, walking towards me, and there was like a yellowish hue around his whole body.
Oh, wow.
And I like looked at my mom and looked back at him, and he was like smiling at me, and he was like glowing, and I'd never had this happen to me before at all. And he was wearing scrubs, and he ended up coming into the room. He was walking over to take care of my mom. That guy ended up marrying my sister.
What the hell?
Yeah, they have two kids. They've been married 9 years,
Oh
and
my
I
God.
think that something was trying to tell me he was important. Um, and he married my sister probably because he was great to my mom, and when she needed help, and very nurturing, and he's a good dad. So that
Wow.
was a very significant. Yeah, I'll never forget that.
I got chills all over my body. That to me is like also confirmation. Like there was someone, whatever, the higher power, whatever it is, brought you all together. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think I've told him that story because I don't want him to think I'm crazy, but that it's something that I can't rationally explain. It's not like hospital lighting. He walked toward me for 40 yards, and there
Yeah.
was he was glowing,
His
this, I
aura.
don't know what other way to explain it.
Yeah. So I don't know if you know too much about that, and obviously that could be for another conversation, but like we have an aura that surrounds us. That's like our energetic field. And that's what I assume you were witnessing. You were seeing his aura shining. And
Yeah.
you can actually go to certain locations and have a picture taken, and it can show you like the different colors of your aura, and obviously it can change depending on like what you're focusing on in life and things like that, but you should totally try it. It's really cool.
It sounds cool. What do they do to like capture your aura? Like, how do they, is it a certain kind of film or
It's like
something?
a
Or
yeah, it's like a photo, and they basically have you hold your fingers down like an electromagnetic I don't know, contraption. Basically, you're in just like a dark space. They take a photo of you and then it can capture the light around you. And so they have all different colors: white, purple, red, blue. and there's significance to each of them. Right now, I don't fully remember what they are, so excuse me.
Yeah, it's fine.
But
Uh,
yeah, that's cool. I
they
love it.
the you mentioned my buddy Aaron, and I should probably, yeah, it's more on the line of telepathy and not like supernatural um
It's all connected.
occurrences for me. Yeah. It's just it's yeah. Me and Aaron, we live. I mean, I live in Rochester, New York, and he lives in Queens, um, and New York City, and I see him maybe twice a year, but we try to keep in touch. We met in college, and we were really good friends, and it seems like it at a very consistent rate. Anytime I think, man, I should text him or I should call him, him being more type A, he calls me within like 2 hours, almost every time.
That's so
And
cool.
I always tell him, I say, dude, you're never gonna believe me, but I was thinking about you, like an hour ago or whatever. I was gonna call you today. He goes, yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's true. I need to just like write it down or something and take a picture of it so he believes me next time.
You should. Because also, I've heard, the more that it's acknowledged, the stronger it becomes. So if you're having those moments and you're saying, oh, it's not just coincidence, then there's a greater likelihood that will keep happening to you in a greater capacity.
That makes sense to me. That reminds me of like how people get more control of their lucid dreaming. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, that's neat.
Just writing down anything that you can remember from your dream, and then you can kind of like cultivate a more control over your dreams.
I love that. That's also something I want to practice more. We'll have to have more conversations.
I'm down. I'm down.
Cool. So, like back to your friend's situation, do you think that's just like intuition? Do you think that's mind reading? Do you think it's like an energy exchange? What could you consider it to be?
I could take it a couple different ways. My scientific mind wants to say that on average, after a certain amount of time, my mind will wonder how he's doing.
Hmm.
And that, maybe that puts the connection within a day or two or a week of him reaching out or me reaching out. But if it's so specifically within an hour or two every single time, it seems like
Yeah.
that I would attribute it more to like yeah, like a certain intuition that we both have, having spent a lot of time together in like I don't want to say defining moments, but like of our lives. But being in school together in college, you kind of figure out who you are.
Yeah.
And going through that with him, um, it shapes a different kind of relationship with a friend.
Mm. It really bonded you.
Yeah, I would say that and traveling with him. If I travel anywhere, it's usually with him.
I mean,
He's
I
my
love
best
that.
travel buddy.
So, I mean, also too, there's something called like your soul family. And just that's where my head went when you started speaking, that there are particular people who we kind of go through these life journeys with, and maybe he is one of those people for you. Not to go off topic again, but
No, I mean, I was in a couple of different like groups, organizations in college, and each group, there was crossover between the two. They were religious groups, um, brothers and sisters in Christ. The acronym was BASIC, and then the other one was called Agape. It's Latin for sacrificial love, if I'm remembering correctly.
hmm,
And 30 friends I had at least from both groups, like people that I saw twice a week, kept in touch with. Right now, I think I'm like, yeah, Aaron's the only person from college I still talk to.
wow, I love that.
So there's some weight to that. And it's
Yeah,
not just because I didn't feel like keeping in touch with other people. It's like life gets in the way sometimes, or he lives far away still,
yeah,
but we make an effort, and I feel like we went through more adversity together than the other
hmm,
people. So soul family is a kind of a cool concept that
yeah.
I could see holding some water there.
It's interesting too. I mean, that's something I've always kind of had to navigate, that idea of people being in your life for particular reasons at particular moments in time, and maybe they don't necessarily have to be there for extended periods, but like what does all of that mean? And also that coupled with how are we individually evolving and, elevating our consciousness, I guess. And if that person is able to meet you there and you're both almost playing on the same playground, then like
Mm.
there's got to be a component of that that's in play as well. And it's almost like giving space to help you grow and meet new people who can help bring you further throughout this journey.
Has anybody like entered what you would consider your soul family
Oh
recently,
yeah.
or yeah?
Yeah. My best friend is also named Jenny. And there's just so many. When I met her, I will say she's the only person I looked at her and I was like, I know you. There was just something within me that was like, I
Yeah.
know you. And then as I started getting to know her, like literally, um, our mothers both were hairdressers and were real estate agents. Our names were the same. We just like had all of these commonalities, but we're very different people. And I was just like, there's a fucking reason, excuse my French, but there's a reason that we came into one another's lives. And like you, she has been like one of my major grounding relationships throughout my whole life journey so far. And people have come and gone, but she has like remained. So I
That's
definitely
really
say she's in
awesome.
my family.
That's awesome. Yeah, you kind of hear that a lot. People say when I first met so and so, it felt like I'd already known them.
Mm, yeah,
Hmm.
it's pretty powerful. You're like, where's this coming from?
Right.
So do you think, we're more connected to each other than we realize? Like, what do you think actually gets in the way of tuning into that kind of level of knowing each other or being connected? Is it, fear, maybe disbelief?
Um, I think most people are, well, a good percentage of people are open to sort of the idea of there being more than we can explain.
Mm,
I think that there are certain qualities of humans that benefited us when we needed to fight to survive, like they're kind of get in the way now, like competition and greed.
mm,
Both steer us towards material things, and to an extent, having a competitive nature or a desire to, you know, or an ambition to that can benefit you in your life, but it's sort of like a blindfold for other things, and realizing that your neighbor is, a human too, and we're all living the human experience. And it might seem strange, but my mind always goes to like the recent discoveries scientists have made with fungi and like just plants in general, how
mm.
they're like connected underground, and that it's all one organism, even though it seems like many
Yeah,
different things.
it's so fascinating to learn about that.
Yeah, I think it's just material things get in the way. And I'm not saying it's a guarantee that, you know, everybody can sort of experience that connectedness, but it would help if people sort of set it aside every now and again, try to detach in a
I
way.
appreciate that thought. Obviously, we're living in a very materialistic world, so it probably is, more common sense, I'll say, than doing the opposing, which is, everyone together kind of
Yeah.
mentality. But
Yeah.
I mean, even too in the United States, like not every country has that same mindset. So I would wonder what are levels of connection like beyond you in other countries. That would actually be a really interesting thing to learn about.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, the United States is one of the more materialistic, cultures and nations. And like, I don't know, it's not like that everywhere else for sure. So that's a good point.
Yeah, interesting. Well, I mean, so based on, all of this conversation and listening to the tapes so far, is there anything that you feel you'll potentially do differently in like your communications with people or how you'll, live life from here forward?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. It seems like such a insurmountable thing to sort of achieve to sort of like practice telepathy in a sense, but I definitely am open to the idea of people communicating in different ways, sort of feeling out the energy that a person is giving me, and not just listening to the words they're saying. Maybe
Mm,
um, since since the podcasts do talk about um, people with autism and other special needs, I know I won't look at them the same way.
yeah.
Not that I had a bad viewpoint to begin with, but the phrasing they used in the telepathy tapes was often before they discovered that those kids had those abilities, they would say it was like they weren't in there.
Mm,
And I think that's such a sad thing
it
to
is.
assume. And I don't think I'll ever assume that someone's never in there, so to speak,
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah. That's a really great point. And it is so sad that, people have to go through life not being able to communicate and not being able to express themselves and then being shunned or dismissed because you can't and not even given any type of opportunity, and then when people try to help, they're told what you're doing is wrong or it's not right. So there's a
Yeah.
lot to overcome, but the more that people can talk about these things openly and honestly and help other people like just hear a differing opinion, maybe that'll really make a difference.
Oh, I know it will. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Greg. This was so great. I appreciate you coming on and chatting with me.
Yeah, I'd love to do another one.
Awesome. All right, cool.